everyone, it's Mandy Brasser here from Streamline for Success and wanted to record this video. We covered this in one of our client webinars this month and wanted to share it with other users as well around Infusionsoft user permissions and what you really need to know, because you may have experiences as well that you go in, update someone's access and they can't do the core function of their job anymore. So it's important that you understand this from a few different perspectives, but understand the fundamentals of how user permissions are set up in Infusionsoft. I had a business contact me a couple of weeks ago now saying that basically one of their users had deleted their entire database and also deleted campaigns. Now, could you imagine if that happened to you? That's a little scary, right? So as much as you can retrieve certain things, you can contact Infusionsoft, but you want to minimize your risk and exposure as much as possible. So it is critical that you review your users, review your user access regularly, so to make sure that you're minimizing your risk and really giving out people the access that they really need. So in terms of Infusionsoft, there's kind of three main areas around user permissions, and you've got user groups, you've got global permissions, and you've also got user permissions set at the individual level. And there's a few steps I want to take you through how you can go about kind of looking at all of this. Now, firstly, I encourage you to go in and access your users. So how you do that is you go to the master navigation under admin, select users, and you'll see a list of all of the different users that you've got there. You'll see whether someone's active or inactive, and you probably have a lot more users than we have here. Now, as a first step, I encourage you to review this list. Does everyone still have access that needs access? You may have had someone that's left your team who no longer requires access, so make sure you go ahead and make them inactive. I also encourage you in your exiting process of an employee or a contractor, make sure you've got this as an important step, that their access is removed from Infusionsoft, because essentially if they've gone to a competitor or if they're a malicious type person, hopefully not, but essentially they could go in here and do some damage or pull your contacts database, that sort of stuff. So always make sure you come in here and review this regularly and confirm that you've got the right active users in here. So the first one that I mentioned in the list before was around user groups. So I want to take you in here. This is one of the areas that you can set a user group for an actual user. So once you've clicked into their record, you'll see this user groups here, and you'll see this particular user has an admin. They've been assigned to the admin group. What does this mean? Now, admin means you have absolutely access to everything. Now, you can't go and give them access to everything and edit their user permissions and just stop particular functions or anything like that. Admin means everything. So it's important that you have a look at your list of users and who actually really needs admin access. I would strongly advise you restrict that to a minimal amount of key people in your business, because they'll be able to access and import contacts, delete, bulk contacts, access credit card information for customers, those sorts of things. So always make sure you review who has your access. So admin means everything. You'll also notice here you can go ahead and change. So you might have an admin user that's also a sales rep, and you could then go ahead and assign them to that group so they can be in the round robins, those sorts of things. So this is kind of where all the user groups kind of are assigned to a user. Now, you might be wondering, if I change them to like marketing manager, what access do they actually get? It's a very good question. And this is where your global permissions come into play. So what I encourage you to do before you kind of get to this step is have a look at all of your users. Go back here and work out who's active, who's inactive, who are your admin users, who are not your admin users, and then try and group them into similar type roles. For example, one of the businesses that we work with, they have quite a big team. They have sales managers, they have sales reps, they have customer service managers, customer service reps, then they have like admin support, which is probably not so much the admin function. And then they have marketing team and that sort of thing. So it's important that you kind of determine those key roles in terms of the users that you have in Infusionsoft, and then we can go ahead and identify how we can map those back to some of those user groups that we have, so you can easily sort of work out who does what. So one of the other things that we've also put together is this table here, which helps to kind of identify if I was to assign someone the accounting user group, as we saw in that particular user, then what access would they get? At this stage, they'd get global permissions, and then you could also edit it on a user level. So I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. As you can see up here, admin gets everything and you can't edit or remove any particular type of access there. And you can go down the list, you can see any of these user groups and what they actually get. So as you can see, there's nowhere in Infusionsoft that you can actually edit what access anyone's given the accounting user group is given. They're all given the same global permissions, except for the sales manager and sales rep. So have a look, they get global permissions, but they also get access to particular areas of the opportunity permission. So we'll have a look at that too. So if we want to access the global permissions, what you want to do is head to the master navigation. Under admin, select settings, and then here you want to go down to user settings and select user. And this is where you can access the global permissions. So if you've made a list of all the different types of roles in your business, remove or don't consider what access your admin people need, like the core super users, I guess, of your app. What else do pretty much the majority of people in that list need access to? So you want to cover off the majority so you have less work to adjust users on an individual level. So you can go in here and let's just say, yeah, we don't want the bulk of people to be able to delete contacts. We don't want them to be able to unmerge contact, and then you could go through each different area. Opportunities, referral partners, we don't want people to have access to referral partners. Orders and invoicing, can delete recurring orders, we want that kind of managed centrally, so we don't want the standard user to be able to do that, and so on and so forth. So you can go through here and make those changes. One thing just to keep in mind is if you want to say referral partners, if you want to stop access there, you also want to make sure down here any of these areas here from the reporting side are set to no, because we know that when we've tested this that we wanted to restrict access to some of our coaches who were also referral partners to make sure they couldn't access their colleagues' data. But if they could, if this was set to yes, they could still access kind of the referral partner ledger, for example. So go through here, make sure you've got an understanding of what each of them do, and we'll share a link below to the Infusionsoft article that gives a bit more information on how this is all done. Can send broadcasts is another great example. You may not want the ability for anyone to just email your database, right? So you might want to give that particular functionality to particular users so that there's some control over that. So review this. I would encourage you, before you go ahead and change, just kind of suss out where your users are at, and if there's some concerns, I'd probably get another user on the phone or next to you, have a look at what they're seeing and change this access so that it doesn't impact someone's ability to do their job right now. We've done this in a few cases just to make sure that it's actually working and doing what the intended outcome was to be able to do. One thing about doing that, if someone else is testing on the other end, just make sure they log out and log back in to reflect those new permission changes. So once we've got kind of an idea about what should these global permissions kind of look like for the majority of people, we would then set that here, and then we go back to our users, And we might have, let's just say this particular user, we probably don't need to give them access to admin. They are maybe a sales rep, or maybe they're not. Let's go. And we're going to call them an order manager. So once we've applied that, let's go and edit the permissions and have a look. And you can see here all the global permissions have come through. They were previously obviously set at the global level. And you've got a couple of options here. You can copy the permissions from another member of your team. You could do that. Or I want to go here and say this particular user, I want them to be able to send a broadcast. So we can go ahead, mark that as yes, and there's no save button. You can see a little tick there, so that's done. That's why we want to get the global permissions as broad and covering the majority as we possibly can, so that you've got minimal changes to make at the user level. So I think that's pretty much the main areas of user permissions that I wanted to cover off. I hope that helps. It's really, really important. I cannot stress this enough to go through those steps, review who still needs access to your app in general, who are your admins, what roles do people play, edit the majority of the permissions at a global level, go and apply those, check, do a test with someone, make sure those permissions are right, go and update those user groups, and then yeah, make sure that everything's in place. And of course, additional information is available from the Infusionsoft help area, where you can go and check out some more details of each of those individual functionalities and what it means to turn them off or turn them on. All right, hopefully that was helpful, but yeah, definitely encourage you to do a big review now this month if you can, and then make it a regular practice to keep this up to date.